My name is Richard Henry Frey Sr. I graduated from Grant High School in Portland, Oregon, born and raised in Portland. Uh, Went to college for a couple of years, but I enlisted in the Navy Reserve when I was in the second year of college because I knew I was going to be drafted. I had very poor grades. So in let's see, I think it was July of 1952, I went active duty. Did my uh, what was left of my basic training because I was a reserve. I already done some, and when I finished my basic training, I went to hospital corps school at Balboa in San Diego. After that, I transferred to Camp Pendleton and did my Fleet Marine Force training, um, which with the First Marine Division in April. Let's see, I guess no, it was early March of 1953. We were sent to Korea, and we were stationed. After arriving at Incheon, we traveled to the main line of resistance, where I was stationed at the outpost called Carson. They were called the Nevada cities: Reno, Carson, and Vegas. Carson was the closest, I guess, to Seoul. It was also on what we called the Cut, which had a road actually that ran from Ungak to Seoul. And so our job was to protect that particular area. We had in Carson, we had 40 Marines and two corpsmen. My friend and I was one of the corpsmen. My friend Teddy Shank was the other one. And we kind of loafed around for a little while and not much going on. And then all of a sudden on March 26th, in the evening, about 7 o'clock, I don't know, it was 7 o'clock exactly, the Chinese started shelling us. And it wasn't just a little bit of shelling. There was so many mortar rounds and machine gun rounds and rifle rounds, you name it. Everything went on for, it seemed like hours and hours. It wasn't that long, but it seemed like it. And it was so loud that you couldn't even hear yourself talk. You had to shout in another person's ear. It was Mortars were raining from everywhere. The Chinese sent an entire division against us. At least 3,500 troops came against our little 40 people. And we held them off. Our boys held them off. And my corpsman friend and I, Teddy, were sitting in a cave. All of the outposts had caves and tunnels, that sort of thing, along with their trenches and the firing holes that they called them, which they dug out of the sides and covered with sandbags and that kind of stuff. And this was at the near the end of March. It was spring in Korea, and we were in the hills where it was just really muddy and nasty, and it was sort of good weather in the daytime and cold at night, that sort of thing. The guys were still sleeping in mud. we had a It was not a lot of fun. My gang held off the first, I guess it was the foray when they hit us with just about everything they had. They overran the first trenches. We had a lot of injuries, a lot of killed, wounded. We had no none were taken prisoner. Um, it was do or die, essentially. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It was hell. We did not have a lot of time to think. To be honest with you, it was just treat the wounded, get them help as soon as we possibly could, and we were really fortunate at Carson because we were not overrun because we were the closest to the battalion command centers, and so we were the first. to receive reinforcements. Jack Ingalls, our lieutenant that was in charge of the platoon, was, I don't know, he claimed that afterward that he probably aged 10 years in 5 hours. So, and I think that's true. All of us did at that point. After that, I guess the main thing was that we held on. We were the only one that held on. Reno was completely overrun. All of the people were killed or wounded or taken prisoner. Vegas was completely overrun and then finally retaken again. And that's where they had the famous warhorse, Sergeant Reckless, who helped their recoilless rifle platoon. There's so much to talk about. I don't know how you can tell everything. I guess the main thing is it was short, it was bloody, it was something that you'll never forget, something that you don't want to live again, ever. And it'll stay with you for the rest of your life.
Wow, I can understand.
I was very fortunate in the fact that I was not wounded in any way, because I was in a cave where they couldn't get at me, and you had to climb through a tunnel to get to the cave. But that's where we had the wounded. That's where we slept. It was not a comfortable situation, but it was safe. I left with the wounded. They took us out to Incheon, put us on a hospital ship, took us to Japan. From there, I flew back to the United States. I was in Korea by early March, and I was home in June. It was that simple. I went back to Camp Pendleton. I was at the hospital in Camp Pendleton, met a Navy nurse who I married in September and lived with for 65 years before she passed away.
Congratulations.
6 children.